Guys, welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, karibu sana. Welcome to Make an Impression. This is just a safe space where we are choosing to be authentically bold in how we live our lives, whether that is matters faith, lifestyle, or personal development. So if those are topics that interest you, please do consider hitting the subscribe button and joining this growing family. So today we are going to have our very first Bible study here on Make an Impression. I really do love studying the Word of God, and I thought it's something we would introduce here just to share, because I feel like there's a lot of wisdom, there's a lot of knowledge that is packed up in this book that we call the Bible. And if we just have conversations around these things, maybe, who knows, you might actually just find interest in reading the Bible and not looking at it as this old age book that carries all our commandments and, stuff like that. So I really do hope you get to enjoy being in this space. Karibu sana. Here we are all about good vibes. Good vibes. Amaje, my subscribers. Yeah, we are all about good vibes. We are all about growth. We are all about development. We are all about trying to better ourselves day by day. Yeah, so the topic that is going to guide our Bible study discussion today is Audacity. And yes, I know you're going to be like, how does Audacity and the Bible exist in the same tagline? Yes, they do. There are times where God requires us to have audacity, where God requires us to face this world with some level of audaciousness. And if you don't know what audacity means, it basically just means doing things out of fearlessness, doing things out of, braveness, going beyond what we would call the normal way of doing things. And that is exactly what we are going to be discussing today. We are going to get our study guidance from the book of Matthew, chapter 14, from verse 22 to 32. That's 10 chapters in the verse 14, and it talks about walking on sea. So I want to just go ahead and read the whole story, and then we can just dissect it slowly by slowly and see how God really requires us to have audacity or to live in audaciousness while we are in his service. So from verse 22, sorry, I said how many? I said 10 chapters. No, I meant 10 verses. So from verse 22, it says, "Then he made the disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. And after he had dismissed the crowds, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When evening came, he was there alone, but the boat by this time was many furlongs distant from the land, beaten by the waves, for the wind was against them. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, 'It's a ghost, it's a ghost,' and they cried out for fear. But immediately he spoke to them, saying, 'Take heart, it is I, have no fear.' And Peter answered him, 'Lord, if it is you, bid me come to you on the water,' he said. And Jesus replied, 'Come.' So Peter got out of the boat and walked on water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, 'Lord, save me.' Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, 'O ye man of little faith, why did you doubt?' And when they got into the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, 'Truly, you are the Son of God.'" So I really love this story of Peter and this story of Jesus walking on water. And every time I read it, I get a different understanding of what it means or how it speaks to me. And this time when I was reading it, or as I have been reading it, I have been getting a sense of wanting to talk about audacity, wanting to talk about audaciousness, wanting to talk about doing things out of fearlessness. And that's the conversation that I feel we should have today, and guide and let this story or these sections of the Bible guide us through this conversation. So when I think about audacity, I think about Peter. If you go to Verse 28. And Peter answered him, Lord, if it is you, bid me come to you on the water. And he said, come. So Peter got out of the boat and walked on water and came to Jesus. When I look at this verse, I think about what was Peter thinking deciding to walk on water. I mean, naturally we don't walk on water. We in physics terms, we are not supposed to walk on water. We are supposed to sink. But Peter had the audaciousness, he had the courage to get out of the boat and walk on water. Why? Because he believed that if it is Jesus indeed who had called him, he is going to walk on that water and he's going to get to where Jesus is. And this is where audaciousness comes in. And I want to talk about 5 things or 5 elements that I picked from this study as I was just going through it, and what I really feel that the Bible is telling us today, why we need to be audacious about the things that we are doing, the dreams we are chasing, the things we want to do, getting out of our comfort zone and stuff like that. And I picked these 5, as I mentioned, that I'm going to be discussing with you guys today. And the first one is, for you to be audacious, you've got to exist in a delusional element. This basically means that you need to believe that something different can happen in your life, and you need to constantly learn to live without fear. So I find this very interesting because for me, being audacious just basically means living in a delusional element. Being so delusional that you believe that you exist in a world that is better than the one you actually exist in. Believe that you're better than the person that you constantly think you are. Believe that you're better than the circumstances that are around you. Live in a delusional element where you actually know that you can succeed, where you constantly walk in braveness, in bravity. If you look at Peter, when he was telling God, bid me to come to you and I will come, I think he was just doing this out of audaciousness, because who has the audacity to question Jesus and be like, you know what, you have to prove to me that you are Jesus. We don't do that as Christians. And I think that God is saying sometimes we need to exist in that delusional element, to have audacity enough to say, Jesus, if this is you calling me, I am going to walk on water and I am going to believe that I will get to where you are without falling. And without that delusional element, that's why you're always cautious. You're always looking at, oh, but what if we do this and then we fail? What if this happens to us and then we fail? What if we are just taking risks, and then sometimes you have to take risks in this life. If I think about the people who have succeeded, the people who have gone beyond the normal standard of life, they had to be delusional at some point. They had to believe that they are better than what society sets out for them. They had to believe that they are smarter than what the books they have read tells them, And so for me, we have to exist in that delusional element as Christians. We have to think that we are deserving of good things. We are deserving of better things, and we have to be audacious enough to search for these things without being apologetic. I want to be like Peter. I want to be like that person who says, Jesus, if you are calling me into this life, bid me to come to you, and I will walk right through it. I will walk right through all the things that people are going to tell me. I will walk to you. And I think that is one of the biggest elements of audacity, guys. We have to exist in a delusional space where we believe that things can work out for us, and we work towards them, and we do the best that we can. And while we are on this journey, what does Jesus do? He continues to watch us. He continues to watch us come to him. And the second one is discipline, guys. For you to be audacious, you also have to be disciplined. The center of all material success is discipline. As I mentioned, guys, I don't think I can talk about anyone who has been successful, or I can talk about anyone who has walked out of their comfort zone without talking about discipline. You have to have the discipline to finish what you started. You have to have the discipline to be consistent. You have to have the discipline to stick to your journey despite everything that is happening on the side. You've got to have the discipline to finish this journey. When you look at Peter, the minute he got distracted, the minute he realized that there's actually wind around where he was walking. What happened? He began to sink. And that's what happens when you lose your discipline. You start seeing the disadvantages. You start seeing other things that you commit to, which you think are the reason you're failing. And then what happens? You start sinking. So you've got to have the discipline to remain audacious, to remain delusional, to continue working on that path that is unrealistic to a lot of other people, unrealistic to our day-to-day lives, but because you know what you're working towards, because you know that it is Jesus who has called you, and you said, bid me to come and I will walk this journey, then definitely you're going to keep the discipline, you're going to remain consistent, and you're going to make it to the other side of whatever it is that you are chasing. So when I look at Peter's story again, you guys, and if you've noticed, I'm focusing so much on from verse 28 to 32 because I feel like that is where the meat of the story is. That is where the meat of our conversation is, because Peter answered the Lord, if it is you, bid me to come to you on water. And what did the Lord say? He said, come. So Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came to Jesus. But when he saw the wind, what happened? He was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, Lord, save me. So the other thing that I want us to talk about when we think about audaciousness is we have to be so obsessively focused in the things that we are chasing. We have to be so obsessively focused. When I talk about obsession, I talk about something you will wake up to do even when you're tired, something you will continuously pursue even when it's not working out, something you believe that God has called you to it. God has called you to chase this thing, no matter how, no matter what is happening around you, no matter what people consider the norm. But if God has called you into this abnormal journey, you have to walk through it. You've got to be obsessively focused to your destination. You have to be obsessively focused. And for this one, I did put a quote. You guys, I love quotes. It says, he who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right. So if we reference to the story we've had for the disciples who did not choose to walk on water, they were also right, because who is crazy enough to walk on water? Who is crazy enough to take such a risk? What if that is a ghost that is calling you? The fears we like to attach to. What if that thing is not real? What if we are seeing our own things? What if we are just here being crazy and thinking there is a white person standing on the sea? They were also right, because you know what? That could also have been a possibility. But look at what Peter does. Peter spoke to this ghost. Peter said, if you are indeed Jesus, call me to where you are, and I will come. And I think that's the audacity I'm talking about here, because Peter was so obsessively focused with wanting to know, what is this that we are fearing? What is this? How is Jesus walking on water? If he can do it, then maybe I should also just try and see if I can get to him so that I can prove that indeed this is Jesus. And sometimes that obsession, that being so focused, because you have already seen, you see, people who work towards their goals are people who have seen the vision, people who have seen the end goal of what they are working on. And for me, I think that gives you the obsessive focus. Like, you need to be so focused on that thing that even if it seems impossible to walk on water, you are willing to do that. So remember, he who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right. So you choose the journey that you want to take up for yourself. The other one is for you to live in a state of audaciousness, for you to have the audacity to live the life that people do not anticipate you can. What do you have to do? You have to focus on self-elevation. Focus on elevating yourself. What do I mean by this? You have to work on bettering yourself. You have to be better at how you do things. You have to accept being vulnerable and comfortable with your flaws. See, guys, in the process of bettering yourself, you're going to fall. You're going to do a lot of things wrong. You're going to get out of the norm. You're going to do things that people are going to question, all these things. But if you know that you are doing this for the sake of self-elevation, you're doing this for the sake of bettering yourself, for the sake of bettering the lifestyle you have, for the sake of bettering who you are, then I can tell you for sure you are one of the people we would call audacious, because for me, audacity is doing things that people don't take to be normal, but you still decide to do them. Because what? Because you are choosing to better yourself. You are so obsessively focused to becoming that person that you see at the end of that other side. And you are choosing to let go, just close your ears and your eyes from the naysayers and focus on the goal. And that is what Peter did. He focused. And the minute he allowed the wind to distract him, guys, what happened? He sank. So don't allow distraction to move you away from the life that you are chasing. Don't allow distraction to eat the audacity that you have built within you to chase these dreams, to chase these things, to do things that are not ordinary, and to be able to focus on them so crazily that you actually convince us that you are indeed a believer of this thing, that you make us believe it as well. The last one is for you to have audacity and for audacity to work for you, you have to focus on providing value. Deliver your art in the best form for the world to be better. So to have audaciousness, you of course have this vision that is unlikely, that is unlikely to be normal, what we consider normal in our day-to-day lives. And you have to look at this thing in a way that it will provide value. Deliver your art in the best form for the world to do better. So whatever it is that you're working towards, whether that is your dream, your art, your work, your profession, your marriage, your children, yourself, if you have audacity enough to chase these things, you have to remember to provide value. Because when you provide value in your art, what does that do? It tells us that the passion you have for this thing is so big, and what you're trusting God for is so big that you don't want to do mediocre things for Christ. Let me tell you guys, God is not mediocre. We serve a living God. We serve a living, breathing God who lives within us, who has given us authority to stumble over demons and serpents, who has given us, he tells us that we are the light of the world. And I talked about this, guys, a city set on a hill that cannot be hidden. So do not be apologetic about this God. Do not be, do not shrink him into something small, because he is great. He wants to do great things in your life. And so you have to approach his throne with audacity as well, guys. We've got to be audacious about how we represent our kingdom, how we represent our art, how we represent our marriage, how we represent our life, how we represent all these things that we are working towards. We've got to have audacity enough to present them in a way that is not usual, in a way that is not normal. And we should not doubt, because like Peter, the minute we doubt, the minute we think, oh, we are not deserving, the minute we think, oh, apana, this cannot work for me, oh, this is not how I was brought up, the minute we start feeding that negativity in our mind, what happens? We sink. And then when we sink, we call on Jesus. But Jesus is graceful enough. He will hold our hand and lift us up the way he did for Peter. But when he lifted him up, what did he say? O ye man of little faith. So let us not be men of little faith. When we choose to walk the path of audacity, when we choose to walk the path of fearlessness, of boldness, let us be encouraged. Let us believe that Jesus has called us into this mission, and he will walk us right through it. He will walk us right through the challenges. He will walk us right through the pits. He will walk us right through all those things that we think can make us not succeed in this path. And he will see us through successfully. So that for me is the Bible study. That is the study that has been taking me through this week, guys. I have been learning about being audacious, being not fearful of the things that I want to pursue or of the things that I am chasing, and learning that for me to live in that boldness, I've got to be authentic enough to accept that there are changes I have to make. I have to be authentic enough to accept that there are periods I have really discouraged myself from doing a lot of these things, and those periods have caused me to fail, or those periods have caused me to look at myself as a failure, and accepting that and choosing to be fearless and choosing to be audacious enough to pick myself up and start working on that journey. I wish you all the best as you choose to be audacious in the things that you pursue. I pray that the book of Matthew encourages you, that this story encourages you, that when you look at Peter and when you look at the steps he took, you will also see yourselves in that situation, and you will decide to push yourself forward beyond what we can see, beyond what we can imagine, beyond what we think is normal, and show us it is possible to be audacious, it is possible to be fearless, and it is possible to succeed in the things that we set our minds to do. That's it for today's conversation, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so excited because I feel like I'm talking about something that I really love. I am really calling upon you to stop being fearful, to be audacious, to be obsessively focused in the things that you are chasing. And I can tell you for sure, Jesus, who is on the other side, will ensure you reach to your end goal and you succeed. So thank you so much for joining me, guys. If it's your first time here, karibu sana. Welcome to Make an Impression. This is a safe space where we are continuously choosing to be authentically bold in how we live our lives, whether that is matters faith, lifestyle, or personal development. So if those are topics that interest you, please do consider hitting the subscribe button and joining this growing family. Well, allow me to close off on here and see you guys in the next video. Bye.